and get his voice out there. And get his voice out there. And these, as you say, listen to them. And I'm so glad that I have, because now I'm kind of actively encouraging other people to do it as well. Obviously, there are sort of difficult and awkward conversations out there, but I think confronting them as opposed to just pretending they're not there is the way to go about it. So
certainly,
you know, it's been a challenging time the last few months, but I think that people are going to be the thing that get us out of this.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much going on in the world. Obviously, the Black Lives Matter movement, just a thread within that. But it really has been great. So I just start the interview off by saying that. How have you been holding up these last few months, though? You're based in Los Angeles?
I'm based in LA. Yeah, it's been tough. I mean, the toughest thing for me is that when we finished, or when we pulled the plug early on Lucifer, we didn't quite finish season 5. That I was kind of stuck here. Normally, I'd be traveling back and forth to the UK to see my kids.
Right. Yeah.
So I was just in a place of like, oh gosh, what do I do? And obviously, like everybody, not knowing how long it would go on for. So I think for me, like mentally, it's been tough to be away from my children. I was able to go and visit them about a month ago, which was great.
Okay.
I'm able to go and see them again in about a week's time. But you know, staying positive, trying to do what I can in the time that I've got to you know, keep going, keep moving forward, because that's the thing, isn't it? If we sit and ponder everything for too long, it gets the better of us.
Exactly. I didn't realize that you're separated from right now. That can't be easy. But good that you're back over there when you can. Yeah,
exactly. And you know, thank goodness for FaceTime and things like this, because you know, that's been a huge savior. But yeah, it's been challenging for you know, that's the thing, isn't it? These circumstances that are out of everyone else's control, they put a magnifying glass on the you know, the situations in your own life. And I think that's been both good and bad, actually, in the last 6 months. I think people have had a lot of time to reflect when normally they wouldn't.
Yeah. It lets you deal with your own things.
It does, indeed. It does.
So how far along in production were you on season 5 before the shutdown?
So we were about 6 days, I think, finish. We were 6 days away from finishing.
Okay, so you were pretty far.
Sorry.
You were pretty far along. You were in it.
We were really far along. We were in our final episode, and it was at the end of a very long season, and we were gearing up for this big kind of finale, and then COVID hit. So, you know, but
how does that shape up for season 5 when it premieres August 21st?
So the premiere on August 21st is the first half of season 5. So it's the first 8 episodes. So we'd already done that. That was already in the can, and that's all ready to go. And then the second half of season 5 is 95% ready to go, but we've got to come back and shoot that 5%, and then that we'll do that first before we get into the filming of season 6.
Got it.
So I don't know when the second half of season 5 is being planned to air, but obviously it just depends on when we're able to get back and finish it.
Yeah. Fair. Well, you don't want to leave the fans without that finale, so you can't just do everything.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be horribly teasing to do
exactly. Well, in terms of season 5, I know that you're playing double duty now as Lucifer and Michael, his twin brother. What was that process like, and was it a new challenge to the character and to the project?
It was a new challenge to me, that's for sure. I mean, what I realized is, you know, playing Lucifer for 5 years, it's very easy for me to step in and out of Lucifer's skin. Playing a new character on a set, it messed with my head a little bit, and I kind of, you know, for a long time felt a bit like a fraud in front of all my friends and colleagues. But it was nice to sort of think about a different character for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
So you know, I had a certain set of rules that I had to work in. We're always up against it on time when we're shooting on our show. You know, there's so much to pack in, and we don't have a lot of time. So in terms of Lucifer and Michael being different, I had to kind of go old school in that and think about physicality and voice and like how a character walks, as opposed to any sort of transformative prosthetics or anything like that.
Right.
So
to your training and to the
Yeah, it was
actual
like,
process.
it was like going back to the theatre. I do remember having an experience actually going to see Ildi, who's one half of our show running team, and Sherwin Shalati, who directed the first episode of season 5. And I was just talking about Michael and what I wanted to do with him, and sort of got up in the room and started talking in what I believed his voice would start to sound like, and walking around. And I said to them, I want to make him different in terms of Lucifer is a very flamboyant and open character, literally very open. His arms are wide, and Michael, I wanted to make him the opposite. So I wanted to make him very closed off and a very quiet character, an observer as opposed to a talker. That was my starting points for him, really. And then a few things sort of evolved out of that when we were working.
That's great. Great. And in terms of, once you had the character of Michael built, were you acting alongside a body double very often without revealing too much of how these two characters interplay this season? Was it interesting to be kind of sharing the screen with ultimately yourself at one point?
Allow myself to introduce myself.
Yeah.
No, it was a strange experience. I had this wonderful guy called Phil who came in and basically was my acting double. So if I was playing Lucifer, he would play Michael, and then vice versa. And he was fantastic because he learned both sets of lines as well. So and when he was playing Michael, for example, he'd be doing it. I'd go, could you just maybe move over here and stand a little bit this way? Or it was. So I had to have an awareness outside of playing the character I was playing at the time. So it was a bit discombobulating, I think is the word that
a little bit, yeah.
People would say. And then also, I didn't just have an acting double. I had, because there were some stunt sequences as well, I had a stunt double as Lucifer and a stunt double as Michael.
Two separate guys. Okay.
So there was me, a stunt double as me, a stunt double as Michael, a guy playing Michael, and another one. So basically, there was 5 of me just walking around on set.
Yeah.
With these stunt guys with like black stubble just drawn on their faces.
Not bad. So you're seeing double on set. Well, seeing quadruple.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not bad. Well, before we get started here, I do want to just thank everyone for tuning in right now. We're at about 6,000 viewers, which is awesome. Our social media manager is on the line and open to audience questions that we'll be vetting and submitting by the end of this conversation. So if you feel like dropping something in the comments, feel free. And thank you again, Tom, for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, backstage, our audience very much is kind of that early career working actor and creator. So I'd love to take a walk down memory lane a little bit.
Sure.
What was the first years for you like out of school? I know that you got your training in Scotland. Did you have years as kind of a struggling actor, hitting the pavement, doing the audition room, the whole hustle?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I've had quite an easy time of it. I was fortunate enough to get a job before I finished at drama school.
Oh,
so I left a little bit early to go and do that. And essentially, when you go to drama school, that's what you want, is to come out and start working. So I went from that, and then for my first kind of like year coming out of drama school, I just went from job to job to job to job.
Okay. So blessed.
And that was
not really difficult.
And also, I spent the first 2 years of my career just taking everything that I got, as opposed to kind of like being picky, because I just didn't know enough about the industry, and I didn't know enough about myself really to know what it was that I wanted to do or where I was setting my sights. So yeah, no, I was on the fortunate side of the acting heap in terms of I'd never really had to do anything other than acting since I left drama school to service my life.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
I know. Well, I think that if I was talking about achievements at drama school, the notion of coming out and be a self-sustaining actor, not about being rich and famous or anything like that, but just being someone who acts and does that for their living and doesn't have to do anything else. That to me felt like I'd made it. Yeah.
Certainly. What was the turning point where you went from saying yes to everything to actually, strategy might not be the right word, but just having kind of a foresight to what you wanted your career to look like?
I don't know if there was any particular point. Only certainly as stuff that I'd done become more successful. I think Miranda, when I did Miranda in the UK, that was a big turning point for me, because it obviously gained huge popularity, and it gave me the sense that I had a bit more choice, or it
Mm-hmm.
gave me the sense that I was definitely going to work, because I think that's an actor's biggest fear, is like, oh my God, I'm never going to work again.
Right.
And we still, everyone still has it, even when you have a huge success or any success. It's like,
Oh,
myself.
you covering your mic a bit.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Is that better?
Yes, better.
Sorry. Yeah, I think every actor has that. It's just part of their DNA. It's like, am I ever going to work again?
That fear, yeah.
That fear, exactly, and that's sort of healthy fear that drives you. But as you know, Miranda took off a little bit. I just started to feel like that I would get jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to think about, if I did get a job, what would the job be that I wanted to do, and what was that commitment? What did that mean to my life, and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I became a bit more discerning about it. You know, the more scripts that I read, the more I'm like, I can see where this is going. I don't know if I want to be part of that. I know what that is going to expect of me for the next couple of years or whatever.
Yeah.
And whether that's like a show that I don't think I'd be that interested in doing for 2 years, or, you know, I always feel like I never want to move too far away from comedy, because I love comedy. I trained as a dramatic actor, but I always kind of have loved comedy. And I think that life has always got funny moments in it, normally in the darkest of times. So, you know, that's something that I'm always kind of looking for in something, that there's some kind of, like, I wouldn't say comedy relief, but there's some humor.
Yeah.
And that's kind of attracted me in terms of that. You know, when I saw the Lucifer script, for example, that was the thing that I was like, this is the one, because it's got all the elements that I want, but it's really funny. It's about the way it's delivered.
Yes.
And you know, that's the way in which I've moved, basically, thinking about the long-term picture of things.
That reminds me, in terms of finding the comedy and everything, just based on doing interviews like this, that there was one actor that told me that the best actors know how to disguise their lightness. So even in the drama, they are bringing some sort of levity or playfulness to what you're doing. And I mean, that's exactly what you're describing, even with the character like Lucifer. There's
Absolutely.
but also a humor.
Well, I think a lot of people had preconceived notions of what this show Lucifer would be.
Yeah.
And because, you know, it's Lucifer, so it's about the devil, and everyone's head goes to a dark place immediately. Or it must be about all these scary things. And actually, you know, it's a pleasant surprise for a lot of our audience members that the show is executed in the way that it is. And it's done with this kind of tongue-in-cheek irreverence, basically.
I mean, it's very Neil Gaiman, of course.
It is very Neil Gaiman, but it's always. But the thing about it is, it buries the lead, and the lead of our show is that it's full of heart, and it's full of, like, this interaction that people have really become addicted to watching. And you know, yes, it is funny and it ticks along and all these things, but what I love the most about that is that people will be laughing 1 minute, and then something will happen, and they'll be hugely affected.
Oh yeah, carpet pulled out
from under their feet, and I think that that's something that we've really kind of. We've really managed to find a fine balance on the show. Of some of our episodes start so ridiculously, and we have these ridiculous kind of thing. Lucifer says ridiculous things, and Ellis says ridiculous things, or whatever. But it always comes full circle to this moment where there's a rug pulled out from your feet, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know I was that invested in this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with that in mind, you've been playing this role for 5 seasons now. What would you say has been the most gratifying part of it? I'm sure that the response to the series has taken you by surprise. You can't really predict something like that. So what's been rewarding about this experience?
Well, I think, you know, in the modern world of TV, there is so much TV. There's so much content out there, and to have kind of to be in the public consciousness of a TV show, that either people, when you say, if I say to someone I'm in the show Lucifer, they go, oh, I've heard of that, or my mum watches that, or my dad watches that, or we watch that, or whatever. It seems to be that there's one degree of separation on this show, and that these days to me just feels like a huge achievement, because it's, as I say, there's so much out there. So the fact that people have decided to pick up their remotes and choose to watch us is very vindicating, I suppose.
Yeah.
So that side of it certainly feels like a huge thing. From a personal side of things, I think that Lucifer has kind of brought music back into my life.
Mm.
I played a lot of music when I was a kid. My mum was a music teacher, and that was, it was a huge part of my life. I didn't act until I was like 17.
I had read that you played the French horn. Is that right?
This is indeed true.
Yeah.
I did. I thought I'd try and play the sexiest instrument out there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was that or the bassoon.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, no, I did. But I also, I grew up in the church and I used to sing a lot. And I'd sort of put that to one side when I started as a serious actor, because there seems to be this mindset that you either do straight acting or you do musical theatre. And, the two don't really cross-pollinate that much. And I'd sort of grown up with that belief. So I put it to one side and then put singing to one side, sorry. And then with Lucifer, we were out, obviously had the piano and everything. And during the first season, we were out having a social in Vancouver where we were shooting with some of our bosses. And we went to a karaoke club and I sang a karaoke song and they were like, "Oh my God, you can sing." And that's when they decided they wanted to write that into the story. And that's just opened up a whole new world for me, basically, of enjoying singing again and feeling like that's something that I want to continue doing.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that came from just a karaoke night kind of on a whim. That's great.
Exactly. It's amazing what happens when I've got a few beers inside of me.
Yeah, exactly. Only good things, apparently. That's great.
Yes, only good things, of course.
Yeah. Well, in terms of this musical aspect, I know that your training was also in the theater at drama school, and now you're, of course, known for all your work, but would we ever see you up on stage? Is that on your bucket list at all?
Oh, for sure. Think about what I want to do next. I don't actually know what the answer to that question is, but I will always go back to the theatre. I just feel like it's like rehab for acting.
Yeah.
It's like, because film and TV is a fantastic experience, but it's a very different experience. And one thing that I really, really miss is having the rehearsal room and having that time to play and kind of, really mine into characters and think about all the different kind of objectives and things like that go, that are part of telling a story in a play. And you just don't have that time or luxury when you're shooting TV or a movie. You just you have to do a lot of homework yourself and make a lot of choices yourself. And, sometimes you're doubting whether you've made the right choice. Whereas in the theatre, you've had time to kind of explore and you think, yes, this is the right choice.
Or if you feel like it's the wrong choice, you can always switch it up the next
night. You can switch up the next night, exactly.
Kind of locked in place, yeah.
But even on that note, that's something I've learned in 5 years. I started out in TV just trying to deliver the perfect take every time. And now I'm, and it's a luxury of having spent so much time on set, but now I'm fully aware that you don't have to do it the same every time. In fact, it's better not to. It's good to find, a way of doing a scene and then to start playing around with those levels and playing around with those deliveries and things, because to give them choice in the edit afterwards is great for them.
Yeah, definitely.
So, that's the equivalent of doing different performances on different nights, I suppose.
Leave it to the editor then.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we've been kind of circling around it, but I'd love to get a peek just into what your character building process is like. You're talking a lot about the physicality with Michael, with Lucifer, the differences there. But what, quote unquote, your process? How would you kind of distill it? What are the tricks to the trade in that sense?
I mean, there's a couple of things I do. Like, the script is everything for me. So I always go back to the script. Like, even 5 years into Lucifer, what I do, and some people think I'm crazy, but I've stuck to it because it works for me. But the script that we're working on at the time, the episode that we're working on at the time, I'll go to work, I'll film the scenes that we have to do for that day, I'll come back and I'll read the whole script again from start to finish. And I do that every day that we're filming an episode, so that then in my head, I can start to connect the dots of we've done this, we've done that, and this is where I was going, and that's what I was doing. And just bringing it back all the time, so I have a complete sense of what the story is and where we're at in the story, because obviously it's broken up and it's not told linear when we're shooting.
Of course, yeah.
So that's really helpful to me. It is a bit time. That's also how I learn my lines. It's not like I sit there like agonizing over paragraphs and looking and then not looking and doing all that stuff.
it's just
it's about
absorption.
repetition for me.
Yeah.
And it's about where it fits in the story, and then it feels right, and the words sort of come to me. So that's something that I definitely do. And then another thing that I've done, again involving music, is that I try to create playlists for characters. So either like, and on the playlist it'll be, I think this is like, I can imagine the character walking down the street to this song, or I can imagine this track being played during a sequence where this character is doing such and such, or just something as simple as what music would this character listen to.
Hanging out on what's on
their like, yeah, exactly. And it's like a bit like a musical mood board, basically. And then, you know, I'd sort of continued, like my Lucifer playlist now is about 260 songs. It just grows and grows and grows. So I just add things to it. But what I do is when I'm shooting, I'll put that on in my car, just on a random shuffle, every day that I'm going in and out of work. And it sort of takes me to that place again. Because I think music can do that. Music can sort of take you to a place just from listening to like one phrase, or, you know, one intro, or whatever it is. And it becomes like a shorthand in that sense.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it takes you to a memory, a headspace, wherever you got to go.
Yeah,
I've always heard that music is a nice tool for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, before we wrap up things here, I did want to take a couple audience questions, as promised. So one question we have from Lil Winchester, or the Lil Winchester rather. How did the cast feel about you doing your American accent all the time?
Rachel Harris can't stand it. She's like, when you talk the way you talk, why would you speak with an American accent? I mean, most of them are cool about it. I think it just threw people a lot. You know, it threw the crew as well. It's like, it's so weird for us hearing you talk like that, because you're so Scottish with voice. And that, in a sense, I was like, I felt like a bit of a fraud. I think I said that before about, you know, turning up on set and playing this new character.
Yeah.
So yeah, it threw people. I think it'll throw our audience a little bit as well. Yeah, it was good. It was also quite nice and affirming when American members of our, you know, crew would come up to me and say, you've got a great dialect there. That was giving me a sense of like, yes, I'm doing my job well.
Yeah, that's all the validity you need. Yeah,
exactly.
Also, in terms of Michael and Lucifer, we have DLE Hotski 85. Interesting Instagram handle there. Does Michael like to drink as much as Lucifer?
Michael does drink. I don't think he's quite got the liver of Lucifer. I think Michael likes to stay a little bit more lucid and just be aware of what's going on.
Well, I'm excited to get to know him a bit better this season, for sure. Final audience question from Chloe Raquel 216. Taking it back to the beginning of your career, what persuaded you to become an actor?
Oh my gosh. Well, I started a theatre studies class when I was 17 years old because I was stuck for a subject to do at school. And I'm going to tell you this, it's a bit embarrassing. The reason that I initially went to the theatre studies class is that my old English teacher who used to run the class said, look, I know you're stuck for another subject to do. I'm teaching theatre studies. I've got 12 girls and I've got one boy. I need boys in the group. And I was like, how many girls? And, you know, at 17, I was like, this is the odds. I quite like these odds. So that was my motivation in the first instance. Yeah. I'm not saying it was the right motivation. But weirdly, like about 2 weeks into doing these classes, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually really, really enjoy this. And that same teacher was the person that persuaded my parents that I should audition for drama school because she thought I had a chance.
Not bad. So you found life's passion. Did it help with the girls?
I certainly got to spend a lot more time with girls than most of my peers, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, looking back to the beginning of your career, I like to tap these interviews off with the piece of advice that you give your younger self. So what have you learned along the years that you tell that young Tom straight out of school when he's getting his start?
I think, you know, the hardest thing is in the industry is that you have to put up with a ridiculous amount of rejection. And that's not normal. So, you know, finding a way to somehow back yourself and believe in yourself and believe in your choices and believe that you have a uniqueness that no one else has got. that's a really good place to be, because we spend a lot of our time in this industry worrying about what people want from us.
Mm.
What the expectations are. You get a casting breakdown and they say it's this character and he's like this, he's like such and such in another thing, and blah blah blah, and it's almost quite polluting, because what that does, it makes you sort of mimic things as opposed to find a real truth about stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think that, backing your choices and doing the work, to be perfectly honest with you, my career started to turn around when I really worked a lot harder for my auditions. And I wanted to go into an audition as if I was turning up on my first day of on set, filming something. So having that kind of preparation, I think there's no excuse. Even if you get it late in the day with your audition, you've got this thing tomorrow, there's no excuse not to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning, working really hard on it and giving yourself the best opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, you're carrying that work ethic with you today, reading through the script several times over, getting it.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. People think I'm a bit crazy, but honestly, it's worked for me. So
awesome. Well, Tom, I think that's great words of wisdom to leave this on. Thanks so much for finding the time to chat with me today, and congrats on the new season. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone who tuned in for this.
Yes.
We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.
All right, take care. Bye.